If you're just starting out in your private practice, don't rush to take insurance. I will explain why. Hi, I'm Laurie from Madison Ave Bookkeeping. We specialize in solo mental health practice bookkeeping, and I've been in business for over 20 years. All right, so let's get into it. Why I don't think you should rush into taking insurance, even though it may seem to be the fastest way to get your private practice going. This will be an in-depth video on a bunch of points that I see all the time when I speak to my clients who actually do take insurance and prospective clients. Since my bookkeeping business specializes in solo private practices, I feel like I've heard a lot. Maybe I've heard it all. And I've also worked for years with many medical practices, so I know a lot about this subject. And I feel like a lot of times when I speak to small business owners and entrepreneurs, and they're a couple years in, they say, I wish someone would have been honest with me about X, Y, and Z. I wish someone would have told me all of these issues, right? But I will tell you one thing. When it comes to money, most people will not be honest with you. It may look like they have a wonderful practice and they're making so much money, but that may not really be the case. And there are some tells out there that I will explain. And I hope this video will prevent you from going down a long and arduous road where you make less money than when you were an employee, right? So the goal is when you go into private practice on your own and leave your employer, that you have a better life and that you make more money and you're more able to provide for your family. So one of the ways to really keep that from happening is to take insurance. And I'll explain more. This is a hot topic. Some people get very emotional about it, but that's okay. We're all allowed to have our own opinions, and I'm going to share with you mine. All right. So one of the biggest issues is that you've decided to leave your employer. And now you're basically replacing your one employer who is legally required to pay you either a salary or a price per visit, or an hourly wage, right? And if they don't pay you, you could sue them. And, there would be the Department of Labor involved. It's illegal and so forth. But when you go into business with the big insurance companies, you're no longer an employee and you aren't protected that way. So what does that mean you're not protected? Well, they can agree to pay you a price per visit, right? But then later on, within a year, they have a certain time frame within their contract, they can do a pullback or a clawback, and they can decide that they overpaid you. Could be thousands of dollars that they determine on their own, and they just deduct that from your current month deposit. So even though you were counting on the money and you actually earned it over red tape and bureaucracy and maybe a billing detail, they could just withhold all of your direct deposit for that month, 50%. I've seen this massively impact my mental health practices and regular medical practices that are heavily relying on insurance payments, and something happens and they don't get paid almost anything for that entire month. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to inform you and educate you that this truly happens. I have some practices and pharmacies that pull in millions of dollars per month, and they, which are sizable practices, have had these happen to them. So it's a huge cash flow issue when you're always used to a certain amount coming in, especially if you're always busy and your schedule is packed. You rightfully so have an idea of how much you are pulling in every month. And then if all of a sudden you receive 50% of what you were normally getting, that will hurt you. It will sting. You won't know why. And a lot of this has to do with these clawbacks. So just really be understanding that. The other thing is, most people that I have met, even in really big practices, it's so hard to do the reconciliation process to insurance. So now, not only are you getting paid less, because an insurance company is never going to pay you the same as a private pay, but now you have this admin issue of having to pay a biller to reconcile. And then you have to hope that this biller is proficient in billing and cares enough. I have seen regarding billing is that most of my clients do not perform well in a billing zone, right? Accounting and billing are not their forte. They are really great at working with people, helping their clients. They are, very in the emotion side, not the math side. So the issue is if you get a bad biller, it can sink your practice. I saw this happen specifically with a physical therapy practice once that was extremely successful. They were making a lot of money, they were doing fine, and all of a sudden they were almost bankrupt. And basically it had to do with their billing service, and then they tried to move it in-house. It still was nearly sunk them because they weren't on top of it enough. I've seen it with pharmacies not reconciling because the volume of the payments was so, the magnitude was so great, but then all of a sudden the deposits are almost zero or they get cut in half because of that clawback. So I'm just going to really push that you are one person. I'm speaking to solo practitioners here. So you are one person, you don't employ a biller probably, you're maybe starting out, and you're going to sign these contracts with these enormous companies who are basically only going to pay you enough to survive. And I just want to ask you right now, is that why you got into private practice? Because I would say if you want to take insurance, you should just stay an employee. I know that could be controversial. I'm just saying it now. I want to save you from the headache and sorrow that it can cause when you don't have any money in your bank account and yet you worked the entire month. So that is my biggest issue on the insurance companies. They don't pay you enough. They set the price. You do not. You go into contract with them, and that means you have to take their members and you have to accept that as your price, right? So as an entrepreneur, I personally like to set my own price and know what my value is. And the market should set that, right? And I would just say, let these enormous practices that have 5 medical billers on site and they have it down pat, like how to fight the insurance companies, and they're big too. Leave that to them. Let them carry that ethical burden of providing care. I was speaking to a new client recently, and she says, I have an ethical burden to pay my mortgage on the 1st. And if I don't get paid by all of these insurance companies, I have my own problem and I have my own family to provide for. So again, think about that as well. It's a hard piece, but what I would say, if you're weighing, right, should I take insurance or should I just slowly start my practice? I would say slowly do it. My most successful clients take private pay, and that's it. Their whole practice is based on that, and they usually ease into it, right? They may cut down their work day at their current employer, or they start doing, private sessions on their own, and they ease into it until they feel they have a certain amount of caseload and they have enough patients or clients. And as they continue and they build up, they lower their employment, their W-2 or subcontracted time until they fully build into their own full practice. I would say that is the smarter way because then you are setting your price. You are still in control. What is the point of leaving one employer to go work for 5 big employers that will pay you less than your current employer? So I hope you found this video on my take about insurance companies helpful. A few things I want to remind you if you're starting your private practice or you're new into practice, new in business as a solo. And I'm speaking again to solos. You have to be careful who you take business advice from. And I mean this in the sense that in my experience, I started my business 20 years ago. I read all of these books, right? And I took advice from a lot of people and I really tried to educate myself. But what I understand now, 20 years later, is that a lot of advice you're going to read or see and interpret, it's for huge companies and the way you run a huge company that's corporately funded, that can do raises and stock options and has investors, right? It's run completely different than a small solo practice. So the huge companies are what I like to call a cruise ship, and your practice is a speedboat. So remember, your speedboat is not a cruise ship, and the amount of money you have to spend, the amount of legal power you have, and so forth are quite different. So what you want to do is ask yourself again, when you're looking at advice, when you're on those Facebook groups, ask yourself, is the person writing in this Facebook group giving me advice, are they really successful, or are they giving the tales of someone who's not really making any money? But also the difference I explained of a big mega practice, right? That has 5 billers on site. Now, they probably have it down. They probably have a certain amount of legal allocated every month to fight the insurance companies. That is getting into the cruise ship world, right? So again, you have to be thinking about, who are you speaking to? What size practice are they running? And are they truly operating as a real business owner, which is what you want to do. And you want to think of the end goal. So think of your goal, of what you're trying to achieve ahead of time, and then work backward and ask yourself, if I accept insurance and I am agreeing to work for 50% of what I'm worth, and then my overhead's actually going to be higher because I am either going to lose my free time doing billing, or I'm going to have to pay a biller. Or would I rather have a more profitable practice where I avoid burnout, where I have the money to rent an office and gain credibility and see patients in person, right? These are things you need to think about as you build your practice. Speak to solo practitioners day in and day out when we review their financials and come up with goals and review how they were doing last year versus this year. If you build a practice that is not profitable, you are just heading in the wrong direction, and I don't want that for you. I hope you found this helpful. If you know anyone else that you think this could help, I would really appreciate it if you could share this video and my channel. I don't monetize, and I would greatly appreciate it. Have a great day.